Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this video, if you could just hit that subscribe button down below and tap that notification bell, that would really help me out because we're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers this year and we're not too far away. Now today's video is going to be a Jesse Marsch masterclass. It's going to be the complete guide to Jesse Marsch's tactics, everything you will ever need to know. So this is a big one for Leeds fans, for USA fans. Share it to all your friends, anybody who's interested in Leeds and the US national team. But let's get straight into it. So as you can see from this second angle, we have a bird's eye view of the pitch, which should make it easier for me to explain things. So first thing we're going to look at is what do Leeds do without the ball, and Jesse Marsch is very insistent on his press. His philosophies of the press, his sort of mentality of the press, if you like, is that you're supposed to go in 100%. Don't just go in to shield or to think about cutting off a passing lane. You actually go in there to win the ball. And what this is called is a ball-orientated press. Now, Jesse says he wants you to go in 100%, like I said. He wants you to win the ball, get the ball directly to goal as fast as possible. And now we've been through this on the channel before, but just to have a little refresher then. Jesse wants his attacking players, his players who he wants to attack the ball, to stand halfway between the passing lanes. So if Bamford's here, he's roughly half the distance of this passing lane, and then the same thing with all these other players here who like to fill those gaps and try and stand exactly halfway between the passing lane. Bamford can go there and he can go there in this situation. But Leeds are actually quite passive towards the centre-backs when they have the ball. What they try and do is wait for the trigger. Now the trigger may be that this centre-back wants to pass to his other centre-back, or that he wants to pass to his full-back. The way that Leeds do it is they wait for the ball to be played. So it's not when this player receives the ball that they go, it's when this player passes the pass. So when it's on its way to this other defender, that is when Patrick Bamford starts to close in, and let's say Luis Sinisterra starts to close in, and they try and block that off. In this scenario though, we're going to say that it's been played out to the right back. So what happens is, once it is played out to the right back, like I said, as that is happening, this player, let's say it's Jack Harrison, goes towards the ball to try and win that. 100% tries to win the ball and get it towards goal. You also have Tyler Adams will come in and back up this position here in case this player manages to get past. Patrick Bamford will tuck inside, Luis Sinisterra will tuck inside, and what we'll do basically is squeeze a big net onto that bit of the pitch so that this player in theory can't play through us, and also they can't play a big long ball and switch it out to the other side. Now we've seen this season that can happen still, but the idea that Jesse says is you must go and win the ball, and then that won't happen. Even if you put them under enough pressure, they won't be able to find a perfect ping out to the other side. So what's going to happen here is then the better teams, if they do manage to bypass the press, they will go into this midfielder here, and the idea is that even though this midfielder's got the ball and he's running, these players will all do a sprint recovery run back towards their own goal, and you can run faster without the ball than you can with the ball. So the idea is that they then run back past the ball and then go back into those attacking positions, mark all those passes, and basically one or two players in packs will try and go and win that ball. If Leeds do win the ball in either of these situations, the idea is that they win it here and they go directly to goal as fast as possible. Jesse Marsch would be fuming if his players took the ball from here and went out wide. He wants them to go central as possible into Bamford's feet. Bamford can run towards goal. He has all of his players converging like this, trying to get into the box so that, obviously you'd have a few more defenders back here, but so that they can go directly towards the goal as fast as possible and put it in the back of the net. That is the idea behind his press and his pressing net, to try and win that ball back and go towards goal. Now Leeds have actually seen pretty good success from this season, but only against the best teams. And I think the reason for that is that these best teams, like Liverpool, like Chelsea, they are not cocky or arrogant, but they think that they're good enough to play through that press. But what happens is they try to play out, and they get caught because we are so tightly compact in there, and people talk about how close all our players are together and having that where you can basically throw a blanket over them all. But the idea is that this player here cannot play through us, because if he does, this player wins the ball. If he tries to play this way, this player comes in and wins the ball. The idea is that teams will not be able to play through us. So what other options do other teams have then? Well, the other option is, let's say that Leeds are like this and they have 2 on 2 at the back. This is a situation that Leeds will often find themselves in, where they've gone man for man because of the press. When I say man for man, let me just be specific. With these 2 centre-backs, Leeds is 2 centre-backs. Let's say Robin Koch and Max Verber will be here, and they'll be one-on-one with those defenders because everybody else is committed towards this press. But if you've got a player, a brilliant player like Trent Alexander-Arnold with an unbelievable pass, what he's going to try and do is he's going to try and play this ball over the top of everyone and into that striker's feet. So let's take the ball, move it into that position. Now, Jesse's only counteract to this is for the Leeds player to win the ball. That's what he says. He says he wants you to win the ball. Now, somebody like Max Verber, you can see why he's been bought for this situation, because he is very proactive and he will go and win the ball. The same can actually be said for Liam Cooper as well. But then sometimes Robin Koch can be a little bit too passive. Diego Llorente was as well. And when these players actually do bring the ball down, if it's somebody that's good up top and tall and big and can bring the ball down, we have issues, because if you look, we've basically got these 2 players at the back and nobody else. Everybody else will try to do the recover and repress, which is what we talked about before. That's what Jesse wants them to do. They want to make a recovery run. But sometimes it's too late, because this player has won this ball, flicked it on to this player, and this player can run in behind with the ball and go and score a goal. And now that has happened to us multiple times this season. So for me, this is something that Jesse Marsch really needs to address. He needs to have more of an action plan for when players just lump the ball over everyone into the striker's feet, because Leeds at the moment aren't dealing with this effectively. So we're going to carry on talking about what happens without possession here and the issues with our system without possession. Now, you'll have seen I've drawn 2 lines here, and these are the thirds that Jesse Marsch likes to cut the pitch into, and the only players he wants in the outside third is the fullback, so Strauch and Ayling in this example. The only players he wants outside that are these. So that's why we play narrow. We play in this gap. And the reason that we play narrow, like you may have seen on Twitter, clips of Pep Guardiola talking about it as well, it's not a new thing. It's not just a Jesse Marsch thing, playing narrow. It is what you want to do if you're a counter-pressing team, because you want to pack the middle so that they can't play through you, and so that you win the ball back much more easily. So it's not a new concept, and it's not a ridiculous concept. It's just the way that Jesse likes to play. However, it can cause some issues. Like we said then, we've just got the full-backs on the outside of here. We're going to talk about now when the switch of play happens. Now, in these situations, Leeds are often being counter-attacked, okay? So let's say that we've got a few players sort of willy-nilly up here, and we're out of position, and this red team are going towards our goal on this side. Let's say that, yeah, so it's usually a situation like this, where basically you've got let's use this one. So basically you've got the ball here, and these players are attacking and bearing down on our goal, and you've got our 2 centre-backs here, and the full-back is marking this run, and you've got the 2 centre-backs here, and then the holding midfielder is marking this one. The issue is that our full-back likes to sit on this exact centre line. So let me just draw that in for you so you can see what I mean. This player likes to sit on this exact centre line, and it's more often than not, it's Strauch. And what he does, he tucks in too narrow, thinking that the play is going to be in there. And there's always somebody at the back post on these counter-attacks. It's not even just because we're narrow or just because we are easy to counter-attack. It's that for some reason, which I don't really know, we just don't spread ourselves out well enough defensively. Really, this centre-back should be a little bit further this way, and Strauch should have checked his shoulder and should actually be out here, or in between here at least, to mark the passing lane. What happens is Strauch stands on this centre line, the ball goes through to this player and he's in on goal for a free shot. We've seen that so many times in this Marsch system. But I don't think it's something that can't be fixed. I think it's an issue that we're facing at the moment and we're conceding goals from it. But really, it just takes a little bit of a tweak of players checking their shoulders, making sure they step out just a little bit to try and mark that pass, to just try and cut off that passing lane. And we can stop that. It's very easy to fix. It's just that we don't seem to do it at the moment. We seem to tuck in too tight, getting sucked towards the ball, and we leave this space open at the back post. And that is exactly where players are able to get in and score against us. So that's what we like to do without the ball. We like to press high, we like to try and win that ball in the situations that we are confident we can win the ball. We like to stop teams being able to play through the middle of us, and we like to be able to go to goal quickly and score. But there are issues with how narrow we are when we're defending counter-attacks, and the fact that we haven't really got an option for when players play the ball right over the top against us. So I hope that's been easy enough to understand. We're now going to talk about something that we haven't really covered on the channel before, and that is what Leeds do with possession. So we're going to start with how Leeds build up from the back. So this is a goal kick then for Leeds. Now, one of the plays that we like to make all the time is the pass that goes into the attacking midfielder. So let's say that Meslier plays the ball out here, and this is Robin Koch. He gets the ball. More often than not, he will try, if he can, to play a risky but hard and low, powerful pass into this player here. Let's say it's Luis Sinisterra. Luis Sinistera's job then is to drop the ball off first time if he can, if not second touch, as fast as he can into this player's feet. Let's say it's Tyler Adams. Now, as soon as Sinisterra drops this ball into Adams' feet, the idea is that it draws the midfielders around of the opposition team. So this player who was on Sinisterra is now drawn to Adams, and these players are drawn across to try and make these tackles. But what happens, or what is ideally supposed to happen, is that these players, once Sinisterra's passed the ball, he spins, all these players spin, and they start making attacking runs. And the idea is for Adams to get the ball into those players, any of those players that he can. One maybe comes short here and gets it. They basically want to get the ball into their feet and go directly and narrow towards the goal as fast as possible, which we've heard many times before, but that's the idea of the way that we build up from goal kicks. It's not always that simple, but those are the basics of how Jesse wants us to play. He wants us to get it into that defender, make a risky pass into one of those wide attacking midfielders, and then give it into the holding midfielder. Everybody spins, and we try to create room that way by moving the midfield around. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what we call the half space or the half lane. Now, we talked about the fact that Leeds play narrow and that it's not necessarily a bad thing because a lot of teams do it. But when we talk about the half lane or the half space, this is what we mean. So basically, from here all the way across the pitch to about here all the way across the pitch, and the same on the opposite side, but let's just focus on this side for now. This is the half lane. It's not the direct centre of the pitch, and it's not the actual touchline in the wing. It's the half lane, which is, as Jesse Marsch thinks, one of the most dangerous places for somebody to play. So you'd have your full-back here and your centre-back here, so you kind of want this player to play in between them and the midfielder. And that's what we've had over the last couple of weeks and months with Jack Harrison and Sinisterra, Somerville, Nonto, picking up those positions in the half lane. The reason that Jesse wants us to be in the half lane is because he feels like we can put more dangerous passes into the box from the half lane. He feels like we're less prominent in our attack if we're all the way out wide. We haven't got as many options, and he feels like I said in one of my videos the other day, that Rodrigo or Bamford has options to run either side of the defender if this player has the ball, because he can then pick him out with that run. Say Bamford runs around the corner like this. If somebody in this position in the half lane has the ball, it's ideal for them to be able to, Bamford runs around there and the ball comes into him, and then that's when he's got a shot at goal. Obviously, these things are in an ideal situation. These defenders are going to move, but that's the general gist of why we play in the half lane. The other thing that we do in the half lane, and this is where Rutter's going to come into play, because he is going to play in this position, I feel, is something that's called a stinger cross. Now, this does sound very American and very Jesse Marsch, but bear with me. The stinger cross is something that we actually are used to in the Premier League, and what it is when this player gets to the edge of the box like this, instead of cutting back or shooting in, basically what they do is put the stinger cross into the box, and that is just a low, hard front post cross. Now, this cross is supposed to go in between the defender and the goalkeeper. So the goalkeeper doesn't know whether to come out, and the defender doesn't know whether to come back because he's dropping and it's actually in behind him. So the idea is that this causes issues. And I think when Jesse Marsch went to one of his clubs, I can't remember which, it might have been Salzburg or Leipzig, 4 of the 6 goals that they scored, 4 of the 6 first goals that they scored were own goals, and it was because of playing the ball into this really dangerous area where often defenders can mess up and put the ball in the back of their own net. But also it presents an opportunity for somebody like Bamford to get on the end of it. Now, against Accrington Stanley, you saw Rutter run down this left-hand side, get the ball here and put a low, hard cross right into that area. It was actually defended really well by Accrington Stanley because Bamford made a run in like this, and the Accrington Stanley player managed to actually get in the way of the ball and clear it. But you can see what was there. You can see the idea was there, and Rutter has only just come in and he's already doing that, which is what Jesse Marsch will absolutely love. I've seen him do it loads for Hoffenheim. That's what he used to do, get the ball and curl it right across the box, and he can do it with either feet. So that stinger cross is going to be really, really good from Rutter, and it's going to be able to get Bamford or whoever's playing up top plenty more goals in a season. The next thing we're going to talk about is what Jesse Marsch likes to call the attacking net. Now, this is when we have the ball, and let's put the ball in this situation. Oh, it's jumped on top of his head. Let's put the ball in this situation. Now, what the attacking net is when Leeds are building up play, and they're building up play a little bit slower than they would if they weren't doing Jesse Marsch's hell for leather, go directly to goal as fast as possible. This is when you're trying to break a team down. Now, the idea is that everybody stands in between 10 to 15 yards apart of each other, giving easy passing options and trying to get the ball into the front men. So the reason that they're so close is that this player has all of these options to play to when they're in this situation. So this player here, let's call it Adams, has an option in every direction, and the players are so close to him that he should easily be able to find a short pass. This is both an attacking and a defensive mechanic, but the idea is that somebody like Adams will be able to get the ball to Bamford, and what Bamford would do is lay it off to one of the attacking midfielders, for example Harrison, which then triggers everybody else to run forward and break out of this net, get into the box and try and score a goal. But if we put them back for now, that's the basic idea of it. It could involve chip balls, balls into Bamford's chest, feet, to try and get him to then drop it off to one of his players in behind. Then everybody spins in and tries to get in behind the defence and score a goal. But this is also a defensive technique as well. So the idea is that if the ball goes into Bamford and Bamford drops it off to Harrison, but Harrison loses the ball, we are so tightly compact here that we can win the ball within the first 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. So if Harrison lost the ball here into this midfielder, all of these players are within 10 to 15 yards and they could all converge instantly on this player. Now, I don't know if everybody saw the picture on Twitter that was going round, and it was a picture of 4 Leeds players all within a tiny little space of each other, and And they basically, people were saying, this is ridiculous, how is this football? But what had happened is they'd all just done this. They'd all just converged on a player and won the ball. And the idea was then that these players could then spin and run in behind so that we can attack even when we're defending. That's the idea of the attacking net. The other thing is that we have something called rest defense. Now, Erik ten Hag's talked about this. I think Pep Guardiola has as well. And rest defense is a little bit actually of a misleading term. Rest defense refers to the German rest, which is the only use of it in that language is the rest, as in what's left over. So what I would probably like to call it, to make it easier for people, is passive defending. Defending when you're actually attacking. So let's talk about it then. What is it? Well, let's say the perfect example in this situation is Rasmus or Ayling here, the right back. The ball is actually over on the other side of the pitch. So at current, this player isn't actually an attacking threat. But what happens is, because of the net, Leeds are aware that if they lose the ball and there's a switch, they could be in for some trouble. So what happens is this player here isn't actually really too bothered about the ball. They're thinking about this man here and whether, if suddenly the Reds win the ball back, they are able to ping the ball right into him and he's in behind if he's not actually concentrating or marking him. So rest defense is basically when you're actually got the ball or when you're attacking, that you're switched on, you're marking your men, and that you're in the right positions for if they counter attack. Now, we've seen this go wrong many times from corners where we've just let them run all the way through. This is not what Jesse wants to happen. Jesse wants our players to actually be switched on, alive, and in rest defense or passive defense phase whilst the ball is with our team. So it's not something that Jesse has got wrong particularly. It's something that the players aren't following his ideas of. This fullback, though, isn't just rest defense. He is also waiting for a trigger. If the ball comes into Harrison and he decides to play the ball into Aronson here, sometimes Rasmus or Ayling might think, I've got an opportunity to go here and there's not really too much danger from this player. So this fullback might then make a run. Obviously this all applies to the opposite side if we're playing over that side, but I'm just showing you one example. So this player here, Rasmus Ayling, has actually decided that the risk is worth it and I think I can get in behind here. So I'm going to run and either underlap or overlap this player, and then this player is able to play the ball into that defender, and then everybody is triggered to go, and maybe you get one of those stinger crosses into the box and the ball goes in the back of the net. That's the idea. It doesn't always go. He's not supposed to go every time, but if he senses an opportunity and he judges that it's the right time to go, then he will make that run and try and get forward. But that's the idea of the net. We have the ball, but we're all stood 10 to 15 yards away from each other in little triangles like I've drawn here. It means we can always find a pass, and if we lose the ball, we can win that ball back as fast as possible in the next 5 to 3 seconds, so that we can then go on that trigger. As soon as we win the ball, that's the trigger for everybody to spin, make those runs and try and get forward and score a goal. So then what are the issues when we do have the ball? Well, one of the issues is that we panic. We don't have particularly the quality to play as fast as Jesse wants us to play. Now, when I talked about when we win the ball back, we give it into those attackers as fast as possible, drop it off, then spin in behind, make those runs. Sometimes those passes are misplaced and the drop-offs are misplaced. You saw Aronson against West Ham. The ball came into him, like we were talking about before with the build-up, from a centre-back. Gave it into Aronson, tried to drop it off to Rocker, but misplaced his pass. Skamaka got the ball and scored a goal. We panic sometimes, but I think that the addition of Weston McKennie as more of a number 8 than a number 10 in there will kind of shore things up a little bit, because he's so much better defensively than someone like Aronson. He'll be able to drop in and help, and also his rest defense is going to be much better than somebody like Aronson. He's going to be switched on and alive to that, and also he's going to get forward as well and try and get in the box when those triggers do go and we do win the ball. So I think that actually Weston McKennie adds a real level of quality to us that we didn't really have before, and it enables us to play a different way. I've talked about multiple times now how I think we can play a 4-3-3 with Weston McKennie, but I think the 4-3-3 that we play isn't really what you're expecting. It is more of a narrow 4-3-3 like we talked about before, with those wingers playing in the half space. So, or the half lane, as Jesse likes to call it. So let's say that this is the way that we set up. These wingers won't sort of be wingers as such. They'll be inside forwards playing in this lane up and down here, rather than playing on the wing as actual wingers like wide men. They will be inside forwards, sort of like what you see Mo Salah do for Liverpool. He's never really that wide. He's more of like an outside forward, and then an inside forward, and then he cuts in and scores his goals on his left foot like that, which is what I think Ruta could be really good on, that right hand side of an inside forward. Weston McKennie, I don't think changes the formation massively. It's pretty much what it was before, like this, but all it is that Weston McKennie sits slightly deeper and plays as part of that 3 in midfield, rather than play in front of the midfield as that number 10 role that Brendan Aronson's doing, and those other forwards pretty much stay where they are. So I think that's the way that we play that 4-3-3. I don't think it's massively different from what we've got now, but I think McKennie really helps us out in there. Like I said before as well, the 4-2-3-1 that we play from the kickoff, it doesn't really look like that when we actually play. When we've not got the ball, we play more of a 4-2-4 in the way that we press and go and try and win the ball. And when we do have the ball, we play with that attacking net that really allows us to squeeze in tight, get the ball, and go and score goals, which you can't really say that the attacking side of things hasn't worked this season. It's just that those things that we talked about before, the fact that we panic on the ball, give the ball away too much, the fact that we are too narrow on counter attacks, as in just the fullback is right on the centre line of the pitch, rather than sitting out a little bit just to mark that wide switch. And then there's a few other issues in there with not really having a plan B for a long ball over the top. But all in all, I hope that explains Jesse Marsch's system. I hope it explains the press. I hope it explains with and without the ball. And I hope it's been a complete guide. That is everything that Jesse Marsch has ever said, and anything that anybody else has ever said on Jesse Marsch's actual tactics. That is the way that we play football. Now, people have said that Jesse Marsch has no sort of tactical nous whatsoever. He doesn't really know what he's doing, but I think, as you can see from this video, there is a lot to it. There is actually thought that goes behind it. There's a reason we play narrow. There's a reason we do the things we do, and you can't say it's not working from a scoring point of view. It's just that there's a few tweaks that we need to make at the back so that we can actually stop other teams scoring. But at the moment, I'm Jesse in. I hope you really enjoyed this one. Like I said, please share it to anybody that is a Leeds fan or a US fan. Just get it out there so as many people as possible can see it, so that as many people as possible can completely understand the way that Leeds United play and the way that Jesse Marsch likes his teams to play. Thanks for watching this one. Like I said before, subscribe. We're trying to hit 5,000 and I really hope we do it this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Leeds Lately.